Okay, so a while ago I did a poll about whether I should change the pickups in my R9. It did seem to me, after doing a video comparing my R9 to a real 59 and also a real 57 Les Paul, that my neck pickup was really quite muddy and my bridge pickup was just really too brash and spiky and bright. But I was in two minds. There's only one guitar I've ever changed pickups on, and that's because the pickups were really not working well. But with this Les Paul, I was worried that it wasn't the right thing that I should do. So 60% of you actually agreed with me at the time, but 40% of you did say just upgrade them. But 6 months later, it's taken me 6 months to actually get on with that. And ultimately I thought to myself, if I'm willing to put a couple of £100 pedal between my guitar and my amp, then surely spending a few £100 on pickups is totally worth it. I mean, I don't know what's exactly inside every pedal that I play, and yet I'd be willing to use that. And the pickup is such an important part of the whole rig. I guess I just needed a while to shift my mindset. And that really came about when I met Stuart, who owns Sunbear Pickups. And he is a real purist, I would say. I don't know if he'll agree with me on that. But what I mean by that is he offered to help me. He offered to help me with the Pink Guitar project, which, if you don't know, that's my charity fundraising project. We're building a guitar, and he's going to donate the pickups for that. And then I was saying to him, just this R9, I really just want more from it. And he asked me to send him a clip of me playing it acoustically. So I did that, and he came back and he's like, yeah, I think I can help you with that. So I was going to buy a set of pickups, but to be open with you, when he came round to actually install them and for us to hang out a bit, he gave me those pickups, which was a beautiful gesture, and I'm really thankful. So openly, I didn't expect it. I was going to buy them, but he gifted them to me. And I think that's because he knows we get on really well, and I love his pickups, and I'm going to be putting them in guitars that I make myself. It's just a lovely thing he did there. So, having said that, let's find out more about these pickups. Okay, so of course these are properly hand-wound pickups. I know now that Stuart gets the covers and then he shapes them to the way he wants, and then he ages them depending on how much aging you want. And then he'll listen to the clip of your guitar, and that will help him to decide what sort of magnets that you might want. And I'd said to him, I want really open sounding, clarity driven pickups that can just express the guitar, and I don't need it to be too hot. So he's gone for Alnico 4 pickups in both bridge and neck, and he's wound that so that you get a 7K on the neck and an 8.3 on the bridge. Now here's what's interesting, and I do admire the quality of sort of reflecting on something you've done and thinking about whether it could have been better. When Stuart came round and actually he listened to my custombuckers that were in there, the bridge was so incredibly bright when you wound it all the way up. That he thought, actually, maybe I've gone for the wrong magnets on your bridge pickup. So next time he comes around, he might swap that for an Alnico 2, he was saying. If he does that, I'll do an update video about that. I think we should just hear a little bit more first, and then we're going to hear some bits of the old pickups and the new pickups side by side in a minute. But first of all, I just want to hear a bit more of the new pickups. Oh yeah, and I should have mentioned I had him do it so that it's out of phase in the middle position. So what that means is when both volumes are on full and it's in the middle position, you get that out of phase sound. It's a bit thinner, more brittle. It's just got a different character completely, and I find it great for some blues stuff. And the fact of the matter is that I think I might do it for every humbucker guitar. And honestly, when I'm in the middle position, normally I never have the volumes both on 10. I've normally got it either so that it's a bit more bridgy or a bit more necky, if that makes sense. So actually it doesn't take away anything for me, but it just gives you a completely different character that I enjoy. Okay, what we're going to do now, I haven't actually plugged this into the Rift since I've got it. I've been playing through the Vibrolux, but all the original R9 custom bucker clips I've done were on the Rift Ainsley Lister amp. So I'm going to go and record a bunch of demos to match the new pickups against the old ones on the Rift. And if I come up with anything interesting before doing those side by side that you can hear, I'll show you. Okay, so let's start by comparing the neck pickups, that was the custom bucker, and now the new custom Sunbear PAFs. And the main issue I had with my neck pickup was muddiness and too much of a booming bottom end. Now, to be honest with you, it's impossible to get this across exactly through recording. For whatever reason, the sort of loss of quality going up to YouTube, and I always notice this, you miss, I don't know, 10 or 20% of what's actually going on in the room. So that's why I do a lot of talking about what's going on. So let's just start by listening to the neck pickup on both pickups, just volume and tone on 10. So what I liked about the custom buckers, and what I told Stuart, was I love that sort of thickness whilst retaining clarity, and also a lot of those sort of lovely harmonic furry edges, I always call them, and I think people understand what I'm talking about. Ultimately, I don't play the guitar that often with just volume and tone both on 10. I normally have switched, turned something back. What I would say is in the room and playing it, the balance was just much better with the new pickup. So I play quite a lot using my thumb on the 6th string, hitting whatever the root note is or whatever. And quite often there's a muddiness or a boominess, which, especially with less compression or less compressed amps like my Vibrolux or a 2-rock, that boom can really come through. And I wanted to get rid of that, gain clarity in that bottom end whilst keeping the lovely sort of feeling and thick tone that the custombuckers actually had. And I think that's what Stuart's given me here, is when I'm playing now, I'm less conscious that the bottom end notes are just going to overtake everything, and there's just more balance there. So I know he's used different screws in different positions and very loosely scatter. I'm not a pickup guy. Maybe one day I should interview Stuart on the channel so that we can get to know better what all of this means. Anyway, next I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit. Now, what I'm going to do from now on is I'm going to show you a few little clips to demonstrate my point, and then I'm going to put the whole... This is going to really screw up my... you know, the YouTube algorithm likes to see people watching as much of a video as possible. That's how it determines if it's good. But if I'm going to put 20 odd minutes of these clips right at the end of the video, and it's going to really lower my average view time. So if you would like to keep this on in the background and listen to it, if you don't have time to watch the whole thing, that would be really great for me. Just, you know, if you could, thank you very much. So yeah, I'm going to show you a couple more of the neck pickup things, and then there'll be more at the end that you can listen to. So I think this is where you really hear the difference in the pickups more. There's just more balance. There was something much nicer about playing on these new pickups with the volume at 8, which is roughly where I tend to keep the volume a lot of the time, just rolled back from maximum. And I feel like I'm getting the character of the guitar, which is, I've always described it as being quite a wild guitar. It's not perfect by any stretch, and I like that about it. It's got a real vintage character, and it is slightly unbalanced. I feel like it's too bright at the top end and too dark at the bottom end and a bit muddied. You're still getting some of that with these pickups. They're not just sort of like, say, over compressing everything or anything like that. They're open. It's just that the balance is better. So if you do listen to those last set of comparisons, as I lower the volume through 6, 4, 2, I find that the Sunbear pickups just remain more balanced all the way down. The custombuckers were never doing a terrible job, but they just weren't fitting the nuance of this particular guitar in the neck position. So as you drop the volume, the bass still remained over the top. And in the room, it's one of these things where I've had Ainsley Lister, for example, came and he played the R9 and the 59 and the 57. And in comparison, his immediate response was, blimey, this is really muddy sounding in the room, and it's just too bassy, too boomy. And I can tell you, in the room, with the new pickups, that's really been tamed back and opened up. And so that's exactly what I asked for, and I'm really happy about it. Okay, so the Bridge pickup has been a real issue with this guitar. It's clearly a very bright guitar, and the Bridge pickup on the original Bridge pickups just didn't do a good job of taming that at all. They just picked up on this ice picky thing and added sort of to it. And in the room, if you're sitting in front of the amplifier and the volume is on 10 on the Bridge pickup, you end up having to cover your ears like that. It's really not so pleasant. Now again, that won't be picked up probably as well as as it is in the room on the recording. So as I said at the beginning, Stuart reckons he could even do a better job, and so we might think about doing something more to this bridge pickup. But if we listen here, it already made it so that you could listen in the room and not be in pain. Maybe that's not the best compliment to pay, but that's how it felt. And just overall, as I go on to play with the volume controls and the tone controls, the bridge pickup, the new bridge pickup, is just actually far more interesting rather than the other ones. When you played them, it just really felt like a sledgehammer. It felt like you were just hitting this thing so hard. And the change that the new pickups have made has meant it's more interesting, more in control, far less of this horrible ice pickiness. And if Stuart thinks he can change the magnet again to make it even more, not mellow, I don't want mellowness out of the bridge pickup, but even more open sounding and just tame a bit more of the top end, I could be interested in that. But yeah, really it's made this guitar so much more usable. So I'm going to stick the rest of these bridge pickup bits at the end. I think there's some really interesting bits here when you start to turn the tone controls down and everything. The new pickups retain more character than the old ones. So yeah, I think it's worth going to have a look at those clips. Right, the middle position on this guitar is pretty interesting, so I think we should have a look at that. So I've always found an out of phase middle position to be just so interesting. So basically this is when the bar magnet that's inside the pickup is basically oriented the wrong way round. I like this different, slightly more brittle, thinner thing that it does, because if you want full big sounds, you can go for neck or you can go for bridge pickup. And you can still do that in the middle if you change the volumes, but when they're at the same volume, when they're both at 10, they're out of phase. And then I found it depends probably on the taper of your pots. If I put them both on 5, they also sound out of phase. And if I put them on 5 and 4, they might still sound out of phase because the taper at that point isn't significant enough. So, but if I do 5 and 3, then it goes back to being not out of phase. So it just depends, and you have to get used to it on your own pots and everything. But to get some of the classic blues sounds, I think it really helps because obviously, let's say with B.B. King, if he did ever use the baritone on his ES guitar, that would give the impression of a sort of thinner, more brittle sound like that. So yeah, I just like having the option. As I said, I might do it on almost all my humbucker guitars and leave one that doesn't have it so I can use it specifically for that. But I think it's worth listening to a couple more clips, and again, I'll stick the rest of them at the end. So look, ultimately, I'm so happy about having changed these pickups and the huge increase in enjoyment from this guitar and sort of making it more balanced, more usable. In the room, it's always been a boomy, big guitar. And yeah, this has solved that issue. What I think is more important for me is like this is the next step for me on my evolution as a guitar person to get into that whole pickups thing. And I think the reason that's worth doing is because ultimately the pickups that get put in, it's not that they're terrible, but they're generically made as a concept. They make the custom bucker. Maybe they voice the whole set of custom buckers for an R9 over an R0. I don't actually know. And I think they're still made in a way that allows for variation, but they're not made with potentially, I don't think they're made with the specific guitar in front of them that pickup is going to go into. Which Stuart was telling me anyway, that originally it was pretty much like a parts bin, as in PAFs were made and they were just picked and put in. So this is like a next step really about matching your pickups with your guitar. And I think it's a crucial step, especially for live players, because obviously with recording you can change EQs a lot. But I think to get the ultimate sound for yourself, then the pickups are more important probably than pedals, for sure. If you can work with someone like Stuart, who is going to work very specifically with your guitar, I think that's great, and you could contact him. But there's, and there are loads of other great boutique makers. I think with Sunbear Pickups in particular, there's a good chance he's going to have to increase his prices a lot. But for now, he's doing something he's incredibly passionate about and really happy to be doing it. And he's building a name for himself. And for me, this pickup is proof that he's got a big future. And so if you're thinking of new pickups, he's definitely a name to get in contact with. I will now be changing pickups on various other guitars. A Telecaster that I want to change, my 52 Tele, it sounds quite a lot like my Broadcaster, but not as good. So I'm going to change it to be quite different, in fact. So that's a start. And then potentially my Marcus King ES 345. I actually quite like the hotness of the pickups that are in there, and they match Marcus King's playing. But I don't actually play like Marcus King. Obviously I'm nowhere near as good. And so I could have a pair of pickups voiced for that guitar that will give me a slightly more early bluesy sound that I like from an ES guitar. So that's another one we're going to work on. And then when I make my own Strats to sell, I'll probably be putting vast majority of them Sunbear Pickups in. So yeah, anyway,
Hope this didn't sound like an advert. It wasn't really, and as I said, it wasn't intended when I asked Stuart about these for them to be a gift in my mind. So anyway, it all worked out really well. So the rest of the clips are here, and yeah, I think they're quite interesting to listen to. I'd love to talk you through all of them, but this video would then be like an hour and no one would watch that. So anyway, if you've got this far, thank you very much, and please continue watching the rest of the demos. All right, cheers.